Question. There's been some accusations that have been floating around today. The DEI. And that's made by the president, President Trump, according to the headlines. And I've been hearing about it online and offline. President Trump blaming DEI for a horrific plane crash that took place. I mean, horrible stuff. And we want to get down to it, like, is this rooted in anything? Is there any factual evidence that would prove that the DEI caused a plane crash that took place? And we want to get to that. So if anybody is unaware, let's play a couple clips so we understand exactly what we're talking about, what data we have, what information we have up to this point. And let's do that. So I got a couple clips here. Let's go with the news talking about it. Let's do that. Let's go here. Let's see what we have.
Well, Diane, I mean, this is just absolutely tragic. As you've been reporting, no survivors at this point, and now this is a recovery mission. We did learn just moments ago that at least 28 bodies have been recovered. That American Airlines fuselage was actually found in 3 different pieces in waist-deep water. So you can just imagine how violent this crash was for that to happen. And it's just absolutely awful what we're learning about who potentially could have been on board this plane and that it happened at all. And I got to tell you, this has completely shaken the aviation community. Take a look at the latest here. Investigators urgently trying to figure out how an American Airlines flight and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter collided over the Potomac River.
Crash, crash, crash. This is Alert 3. Crash, crash, crash. This is Alert 3.
This EarthCam video showing the deadly midair crash is sure to be a key part of the FAA and NTSB investigation. An NTSB GO team launching with investigators to the scene overnight, newly appointed Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy promising a thorough inquiry.
We are going to offer full support to those on the ground, to the mayor, but also to the NTSB, who is going to be conducting the investigation in this matter.
The plane lined up to land on runway 33, rarely used because of its size and unique landing approach required. The other end of the runway is lined up with the Pentagon, so that side cannot be used.
There'll be a review of what happened here tonight, and after the FAA studies what happened, we will take appropriate action if necessary to modify flight paths and permissions.
The military pilot on that Black Hawk telling the DCA tower they could see the plane seconds before collision.
That's 25, 0G in flight.
This club has an aircraft inside precision separation.
Army officials confirming that helicopter was on a training flight out of Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth saying Army and DoD investigations are already underway. With so much still unknown, the CEO of American Airlines saying the airline is committed to finding answers.
Our cooperation is without pause, and we want to learn everything we can about today's events. That work will take time, but anything we can do now, we're doing.
And just moments ago, that American Airlines CEO actually said that everything appeared normal on that approach for the American Airlines flight, and that now the question is, from his perspective, is why did that military aircraft come into the path of the plane? And that is really such a question. Sam Sweeney was describing potential confusion that was happening on board. We know that it was a training flight aboard that Black Hawk helicopter. So many questions surrounding that. Were they disoriented because of the night sky? We also know that it was clear. The weather was clear. So many things coming into question here, Diane.
Wow. I mean, it goes without mentioning, but let's say it again. You know, our condolences go to the family and friends and loved ones who lost someone due to this horrific accident, hopefully accident that took place here in D.C. Unfathomable. You know, horrific, unfathomable, hellacious. I want to go, before we go any further, let's go to this clip. I want people to take a double look at the video of the planes about to collide. Because they said here that it doesn't make sense that the Black Hawk helicopter got into the pathway of the airliner. It's pretty clear. I hope you can see it here. Let's see how clear this video is. As you can see here, there's an approach. The one with the light, you see the little object traveling towards the one with the light. Let me get us a little bit slower here. Let me come off the screen. Hold tight, guys. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Okay. So you're going to see what is going to appear in the middle is a big light. That's the plane. Down towards the center. There you go. That's the plane right here. So the plane is the big light that's moving slowly. That's the airliner. And then there's a smaller, much smaller vessel just to the left of that. Just to the left of the airliner, there's a small light. That's the Black Hawk. As you can see, it's like headed directly for it. Everyone got that. Everyone see that. One more time for clarity. Big light means airliner. Small blinking right there, that's the Black Hawk helicopter. And it's almost as if, and I heard people talking about the theories and whatnot. I was skeptical. What are they talking about? I had to find it myself. Here you go. They're talking about it looks like it's going directly. It's almost like it's attracted to the plane. Okay.
Biggest runway here. It is also the busiest runway in the country. It is just nonstop. At the last moment, air traffic control changed that to runway 33. Now, we don't know exactly why, but we do know that that was pretty commonplace. This happens all the time here at this airport. The American Airlines CEO says that everything was looking normal on approach as they were landing. Then it gets to the helicopter, and this is the Black Hawk. And that Black Hawk was at 350 feet. And for some reason, it seemed to be heading toward the plane. And again, we don't know why that happened either, but we do know that air traffic control actually said to the Black Hawk pilot, "Do you see the plane?" And they confirmed that they saw the plane, or at least a plane. And we just don't know if there was any confusion there in the Black Hawk at the time. We know that there were three different soldiers there in the Black Hawk conducting this training mission. That doesn't mean they were inexperienced. It just means that this is sort of like a routine training that the military is always doing. And at that point, that's what we don't know. What happened? Did they get confused? And so there are many questions about that particular moment with the Black Hawk Kira.
What do you think? What do you think? Doesn't look good, does it? Does not look good. Even looks like a gross, and I mean gross. And I'm not a person that looks into, I don't like going with coincidences and accidents too often. Now when people have been trained and trained and trained again on how to do something. But this looks, I don't want to say it looked intentional. People are saying it was intentional. I don't know if I agree with that. I can't make a leap that way, but I will say there's a possibility that this is one of the most negligent actions I've seen. 67 people lost their lives. There were no survivors on either one of the vessels. Everyone on the Black Hawk died. Everyone on the airliner died. So, it looks horrible. It looks, I mean, it looked like you drove straight forward. It looked like you flew straight into the thing you shouldn't fly into. Okay. So let's go to what's. I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around what I'm thinking. I'm thinking to myself, like, why? What would be the gain for this? You know, I'm getting these theories from the people that are saying, "Hey, Tim Black, man, this is they saw to bring down Trump." I don't know if people understand that Trump doesn't get to run again. And over here chattering of Trump fans saying we want him for a third term. He doesn't get to run again. Okay, so trying to destroy his legacy or trying to these motivations for him to try to do something to get another term are crazy. To me, it doesn't seem logical. He can't do another term, and what's the incentive? What's the incentive of causing a plane crash that kills 67 civilians just to make him look bad when he can't run again anyway? But I'm hearing I'm hearing this stuff, man, and damn it, I hate this. I hate the politics of everything getting ramped up and really no data, nothing to support it. It's just people have feelings because they don't trust one another. We're paranoid. We think things. And that's all we got. But when you take the feelings away, what you do definitely have, if you say, okay, I'm not even going to go into the conspiratorial part of it, you see some extremely gross negligence of trained people taking their own lives. It's not like they got out. It's not like this was an unmanned drone, okay? There are human beings on the Black Hawk who are no longer with us. So, and then the mind starts to go further and further, right? Because were they operating under their own control? Were they free to do whatever they wanted to do? Were they at gunpoint? Was something going on that Black Hawk? I mean, folks, you see a train in front of you and you go towards the train with no act of self-preservation for yourself. If this was intentional, it was a suicide. There was no escape. So I want to go to Donald Trump. I have not watched his press conference, but I did take extra time. I could not get the full. So good thing X had it. X had the entire full press conference of Donald Trump, and I want us to sit back. Let's go through the entire Donald Trump thing. It's like 30 minutes. We'll stop. We'll take a little break. I don't want to bore you. I mean, hope you won't be bored. But we want to answer the question because he's going to bring up some points. I've seen the news articles. They say Trump's blaming DEI. I want to answer that question. Let's see what information he has. What is he going to tell us that's going to help him form that conclusion? People are saying, Tim, Trump is who he always was. You tripping. The man's a racist. He hates the blacks. You blaming black people. People are saying, very notable people that not naming names, and people are saying, they're throwing this around, black, DEI means black. BLM meant black. Woke means black. Everything means black. Nothing means LGBTQ. Nothing means trans. Nothing means DACA. Nothing means dreamers. Nothing means immigrants. Everything means just me and Mrs. Black. Everything means black people. We're 13% of the population, and all those words all mean black, except only one of them has the name black in it, which is kind of crazy. And I don't hear Republicans saying we mean black when we say it, but the Democrats keep saying that's what you mean, even though you're not saying it. Which is a little weird because diversity means more than one. That's what diversity means. Means many things. How could it just mean black? But this is what they're putting out. And they're saying when Trump says DEI did this, that he's blaming black people. So I'm feeling a certain kind of way about this because it don't make sense to say that when you know diversity means more than that. That diversity, by definition, means multiple things, multiple types of things, different variations of things. That's what diverse would mean. That's the definition. And people are saying, no, he meant this. So I want to get to the bottom of it. Let's do it. Let's go. There's Trump's. Let's hear Trump speak for himself.
Push to put diversity into the FAA's office. They put a big office. They put a big.
Well, he's already talking. Let's go to the one. I want to go to the one where he's not talking.
President, welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to request a moment of silence for the victims and their families, please. Thank you very much. I speak to you this morning in an hour of anguish for our nation. Just before 9 p.m. last night, an American Airlines regional jet carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter carrying 3 military service members over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., while on final approach to Reagan National Airport. Both aircraft crashed instantly and were immediately submerged into the icy waters of the Potomac. Real tragedy. The massive search and rescue mission was underway throughout the night, leveraging every asset at our disposal, and I have to say the local, state, federal, military, including the United States Coast Guard in particular, they've done a phenomenal job. So quick, so fast. It was mobilized immediately. The work has now shifted to a recovery mission. Sadly, there are no survivors. This was a dark and excruciating night in our nation's capital and in our nation's history, and a tragedy of terrible proportions. As one nation, we grieve for every precious soul that has been taken from us so suddenly, and we are a country of really, we are in mourning. This is really shaken a lot of people, including people, very sadly, from other nations who were on the flight. For the family members back in Wichita, Kansas, here in Washington, D.C., and throughout the United States and in Russia, we have a Russia contingent, some very talented people, unfortunately, were on that plane. Very, very, very sorry about that. Whose loved ones were aboard the passenger jet. We can only begin to imagine the agony that you're all feeling. Nothing worse. On behalf of the First Lady, myself, and 340 million Americans, our hearts are shattered alongside yours, and our prayers are with you now and in the days to come. We'll be working very, very diligently in the days to come. We're here for you to wipe away the tears and to offer you our devotion, our love, and our support. There's great support. In moments like this, the differences between Americans fade to nothing compared to the bonds of affection and loyalty that unite us all, both as Americans and even as nations. We are one family, and today we are all heartbroken. We're all searching for answers. That icy, icy Potomac, it was a cold, cold night, cold water. We're all overcome with the grief for many who have so tragically perished, will no longer be with us. Together we take solace in the knowledge that their journey ended not in the cold waters of the Potomac, but in the warm embrace of a loving God. We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions and ideas, and I think we'll probably state those opinions now. Because over the years I've watched as things like this happen, and they say, well, we're always investigating, and then the investigation 3 years later, they announce it. We think we have some pretty good ideas, but we'll find out how this disaster occurred, and we'll ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. The FAA and the NTSB and the U.S. military will be carrying out a systematic and comprehensive investigation. Our new Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, his second day on the job when that happened. It's a rough one. We'll be working tirelessly. He's a great gentleman. The whole group these are great people, and they are working tirelessly to figure out exactly what happened. We will state certain opinions, however. I'm also immediately appointing an acting commissioner to the FAA, Christopher Rocheleau, a 22-year veteran of the agency, highly respected. Christopher, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We must have only the highest standards for those who work in our aviation system. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to extraordinary. You remember that. Only the highest aptitude, they have to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. That was not so prior to getting there. When I arrived in 2016, I made that change very early on because I always felt this was a job that, and other jobs too, but this was a job that had to be superior intelligence, and we didn't really have that, and we had it. And then when I left office and Biden took over, he changed them back to lower than ever before. I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse. So as you know, last week, long before the crash, I signed an executive order restoring our highest standards for air traffic controllers and other important jobs throughout the country. So it was very interesting. About a week ago, almost upon entering office, I signed something last week that was an executive order, very powerful, on restoring the highest standards of air traffic controllers and others, by the way. Then my administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent, the word talent. They have to be talented, naturally talented geniuses. You can't have regular people doing that job. They won't be able to do it. But we'll restore faith in American air travel.
What is this? What is talented? What is geniuses? If you were talented, or if you were a genius, would you want a job being an air traffic control person? The vague language of Trump is part of the problem. It's vague, but it's also, kind of out there. So I don't know what that means. We need geniuses. People say, hey, you're a genius. You could just come up with a better way to make a cheese sandwich, a grilled cheese. Like, what do you mean, genius? As in, are you saying they had to score a certain amount on a test? Did they have to have certain performance criteria that was higher than others? Like, what are we talking about when we say genius? Is there some genius test we're talking about? He's not being specific, but he's saying some very specific things. So 3 service members. He restored the high standards of air traffic controls. In 2016, he had that designation, and then when Biden took over, he changed it. Let's keep going.
Have more to say about that. I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they want them, they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. This was in January 14th, so that was a week before I entered office. They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program.
I'm trying to get my thoughts right on this. Trying to understand what he's saying here. So you mean to tell me that they said we wanted people with psychological issues to be air traffic control people? I don't know if I want people with psychological challenges to drive my Uber. I don't want them Ubering my granddaughter. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Hold on a second.
And here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then,
okay, I did find one clip that kind of puts this in a different perspective.
I'm Brad Mims, Deputy Administrator at the Federal Aviation Administration. We are looking for the best and brightest to join us as air traffic controllers. We need a diverse group of air traffic controllers to bring distinct perspectives to handle the ever-changing aerospace landscape. I'm calling on students and alumni from HBCUs, Hispanic serving institutions, and tribal colleges to apply now to become air traffic controllers. I don't want anyone interested to miss out on this amazing career opportunity. Make sure you complete your full application during our application window. The short application window ends on May 8th. We need a diverse, next-generation air traffic workforce with people from all backgrounds. So apply now.
Okay. Now, the first thing out of his mouth, he said he wanted people that were amazing. Right? Didn't he have the first criteria was amazing, right?
Hi, I'm Brad Mims, Deputy Administrator at the Federal Aviation Administration. We are looking for the best and brightest to join us as air traffic controllers.
The best and brightest. So the first criteria is best and brightest. The best and brightest. Then he went on to talk about diversity. So as long as you put best and brightest first, and diversity is a secondary or third consideration, right? Is that okay, or is that still a problem? If your first criteria is you have to perform at a certain level, right? So if you got to perform at a certain level, have a certain level of competency, have all the requirements. It's not like the job requires a master's degree and you can come in with a GED. And just because you are, black, you get it. Now it says you have to be the best and brightest. Best and brightest, I'm assuming that means you got to be qualified. I'm assuming if there's testing, you have to have passed the test. You had to reach the whatever level that you need to be competent in that profession. He didn't say competent, by the way. He said best and brightest. Best and brightest means best and brightest. You can't say he meant something other than what he said. So if you say best and brightest, you need best and brightest. Right? So I just want to I'm going to take a look at this. Let me know what you think in the comments. So then after you say best and brightest, because this is the real conversation, guys. This is what it's all about. There are people that think that when you say you want diversity, that you are somehow taking a shortcut on quality. Okay? Is that what he's saying? Is he saying we're taking a shortcut on quality? He didn't say, hey, less qualified people that are different ethnicities, contact us. We'll still put you in. He didn't say that. I mean, only a fool would say that, but he didn't say that. So this is kind of what we have to wrap our heads around this. We have to decide, Is this what's happening, or is it not what's happening? Or is this a scapegoat? All right, so that's the clip Trump was alluding to. He stipulated some documentation that Biden had in his previous whatever, right? That he had a program. He wanted people with severe mental disabilities. So then every day you get a job that puts people's lives in someone's hands, and you want people to have severe mental disabilities. It's kind of mind-boggling that that would be a consideration. I mean, we're not talking about being a package checker at Walmart. No, those annoying people at Costco and at Sam's that check your receipt and look at your packages. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about being a Walmart greeter. Do they still have Walmart greeters? I don't think they do. We really need the greeters at the Home Depot because their customer service sucks. I mean, I spent an hour and a half looking for some boats, and nobody was trying to help my ass. That's beside the point. My point is this. Severe mental disabilities, that doesn't sound like something, doesn't sound like a good qualification. Why would you want that in this type of work? Now, I'm going on Trump's word, which is something I've heard would not be smart to do. They don't trust Trump's word, which is part of the reason why we're doing this show tonight on this topic, because most people do not, well, a lot of people don't trust Trump's word. The old corporate media diet will lead people that consume corporate media to never, ever trust anything Trump says. Of course, if Biden said it or Kamala said it, but if Trump says it, get it out of here. And they're not biased, they're just smart. Because only one side lies to him. Anyway, that's not the point. I'm all over the place. Let me stop. Stop, Tim. That's not the point. The point is this. Trump sounds like he's leading up to the same DEI caused the air crash. But that's not what happened with the air crash. I don't want to step on it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to rob us of the figuring it out part. But it looked like this was air traffic control's problem. It looked like whoever's flying that fucking plane flew the plane into the other plane. You know, amount of people on camera, in walkie-talkie saying, hey, literally someone said, hey, you see the other plane, right? And he said, yeah, I see it. And then he proceeded to fly into it and kill 70 people. The people back at the booth or wherever, the aviation staff, there's nothing they can do about it. What are they going to do about it? Maybe tell the other plane to duck and run or try some type of roll maneuver. Maybe they could get Bill Burr. Bill Burr flies plane. Maybe Bill Burr could have told him a way to flip the plane or do a Top Gun maneuver that would avoid the helicopter that looked like it was flying directly for the airliner. And I don't think all the amount of testing in the world would have you being a pilot of the airliner, right? That would get you out of this. Let's go back to Trump.
It says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. This was in January 14th, so that was a week before I entered office. They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Then another article, the Federal Aviation Administration, this was before I got to office, recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine? These are people that are I mean, actually, their lives are shortened because of the stress that they have. Brilliant people have to be in those positions, and their lives are actually shortened, very substantially shortened because of the stress, where you have many, many planes coming into one target, and you need a very special talent and a very special genius to be able to do it. Targeted disabilities are those disabilities that the federal government, as a matter of policy, has identified for special emphasis in recruitment and hiring. The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller of.
Okay, let me get this right though. Let me understand something here, which is kind of what I was saying to begin with. The Democratic Party are operating under a narrative that when you say DEI, you mean black. Trump's not talking about black people; he's talking about disabled people. Now, clearly, guys, if you're familiar with my program, I went down a list of things that DEI means. The diversity in DEI means a group of things. Black is just one thing. So is Latino. There's ethnicity, there's race, there's religion, there's disability, there's veteran status. There's a number of different columns. That's why it's diverse. But for some reason, we know the reason, because the Democratic Party is so bent on using black people either as demonstrators or activists or as moral authorities or using the weight of our history to extract money for programs so they can line their pockets. That's really what it is. They like using black. But diversity is about multiple groups of people. And this multiple group of people, I know a lot of people that say Trump is the Klan member, he's Hitler, he's David Duke, he's all these things. Why is he reading off something about mental disabilities if he's talking about black people? He's not even talking about LGBTQ. I don't know if he has any point to talk about any of this, because what I saw, the only disability someone might have would be the pilot, and maybe they were hard of seeing, like they didn't have optical, they didn't have vision. Can you be a blind pilot? Because that's what that looked like from what I could see. This video, folks, what we just saw here was that this was pretty damning. I mean, it looks like the little dot is going towards the bright dot. It's much bigger. How could you not see that? It's a clear night. There are no clouds in the sky. There's no rain.
Planes pouring into our country, pouring into a little spot, a little dot on the map, a little runway. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan. Think of that. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan, which says diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite. The FAA website shows that the agency's guidance on diversity hiring were last updated on March 23rd of 22. They wanted to make it even more so. And then I came in, and I assume maybe this is the reason. The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run this Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of bullshit. The Department of Transportation, his government agency charged with regulating civil aviation. Well, he.
Yeah, I never was a fan of the booty judge. Never was a fan of it. I know the Democrats were very in love with him. He checked the boxes in the diversity map. That's what that was. Mr. Robot. But never was impressed. But what are we talking about? Trump started off fine. He was talking about things that matter. He was talking about the grieving for the families, and he was doing good. And then now it's devolving into this shitting on people thing. And I know that's what Trump does. I shouldn't expect much more than that. But I don't understand why he's defending himself. Is he defending himself? I mean, we have no proof of anybody doing anything haphazardly from the aviation squad. Like, I see nothing that says that this had anything to do with it. Is this a fault of the aviation, of the FAA? Did they do this, or did the pilot? It looked like the pilot to me. But what do I know? I'm just looking at the screen, seeing it. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you guys see something different than I see here?
Runs it, 45,000 people, and he's run it right into the ground with his diversity. So I had to say that it's terrible. Then it's a group within the FAA, another story, determined that the workforce was too white, that they had concerted efforts to get the administration to change that and to change it immediately. This was in the Obama administration just prior to my getting there. And we took care of African Americans, Hispanic Americans. We took care of everybody at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It's one of the reasons I won. But they actually came out with a directive, too white. And we want the people that are competent. But now we mourn and we pray, and would like to ask all Americans to join me in a moment of silence as we ask God to watch over those who have lost their lives and bring comfort to the loved ones. And I just want to say God bless everyone in this room. This has been a terrible, very short period of time. We'll get to the bottom of it. So we all saw the same thing. We've seen it many times. I've had the honor of hearing tapes. Tapes are scary, very scary tapes. You had a airliner coming in, American Airlines. He was doing everything right. He was on track. He was the same track as everybody else. They came in. It's probably the same track as they've had for 25 years or more. He's coming in the path. And for some reason, he had a helicopter that was at the same height, obviously when they hit, but pretty much the same height, and going at an angle that was unbelievably bad. When the air traffic controller said, "Do you see?" he was talking about, "Do you see him?" But there was very little time left when that was stated. And then also he said, "Follow him in." And then almost immediately after that, seconds after that, there was the crash that took place. Well, you follow him in, that means like everything's fine. Follow him in. You had a pilot problem from the standpoint of the helicopter. I mean, because it was visual. It was a very clear night. It was cold.
Look at this. Now, guys, I did not watch this clip first. I did not watch it. I like to save clips and watch them with you so there'll be a true reaction that's authentic. I don't have to try to put it on. Everybody doesn't do that, because you could be wrong. I'd rather be wrong than be stale. He's saying exactly the same thing I was saying, though. It looked like a clear night. It looked like the helicopter could see the plane. It's a fucking plane. It's big. It's 10 times bigger than the helicopter. It's right. I mean, at least, right?
Cold, but clear, and clear as you could be. The American Airlines plane had lights blazing. They had all of their landing lights on. I could see it from the Kennedy Center tape. We had a tape up on the Kennedy Center. That seems to be the primary. Thus far, I'm sure we'll see other tapes because it's such an area where there are a lot of cameras looking up into the air, into space. So we'll probably see many other shots of it before too much time goes by. But we had a situation where you had a helicopter that had the ability to stop. I have helicopters. You can stop a helicopter very quickly. It had the ability to go up or down. It had the ability to turn. And the turn it made was not the correct turn, obviously. It did somewhat the opposite of what it was told. We don't know that that would have been the difference because the timing was so tight. It was so little. There was so little time to think. But what you did have is you had vision. The helicopter had vision of the plane because you had vision of it all the way, perfect vision of it all the way from at Kennedy Center where the tape was taken. And for some reason, there weren't adjustments made. Again, you could have slowed down the helicopter substantially. You could have stopped the helicopter. You could have gone up. You could have gone down. You could have gone straight up, straight down. You could have turned.
You know, I got to say something, man, and I know Trump will get no credit from this, from the corporate media side of the game, none at all. But Trump is being more transparent than I've ever seen a president be. He's literally saying the same thing regular people say. He's literally, I'm a regular person. I don't work for the Democrats or Republicans. No party affiliation. That's exactly the same thing I came away with. I'm pretty sure a lot of my people watching, we're normal, regular folks. We just want to get it right. We want to understand. We're not here to cape for Republicans or Democrats. But I got to say, man, there is a level of clarity. Now, don't get me wrong, Trump's full of shit. A lot. His shit meter is all the way up here, okay? He talks. He does things shock and awe. He'll know something to get overturned, he still do it. But he's also very direct. Dave Chappelle said he's the most honest liar you ever meet. I'm lying to you. I told you, but I got to get the numbers up. We got to negotiate. But you know, that's what I had to do. I had to lie to you to get your numbers up, to get the price up. We got to do a better job. He's honestly lying. That's what I mean. But here, he's being transparent. I don't think Biden ever came out and told us what something was. That's all I'm saying. When there was a train wreck in Palestine, Ohio, I don't remember Biden coming out giving a press conference and telling us everything that happened and explaining it very clearly and taking the time and saying, if it's 10 minutes or 40 minutes, let me break this down to you and just shoot the shit. That's what Trump's doing. I don't remember Obama ever doing anything like this. He ever was clean, clear, concise? Oh, come on. Was he ever? Always seemed like it was a bunch of airs, a bunch of posturing. Now, Trump, it's a bunch of name-calling, being a little petty, talking about Buttigieg. Buttigieg ain't there anymore. I'm not even sure I understand why he's even throwing in the DEI thing, because looks like the pilot was drunk. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true, but that looks like the pilot was drunk. That's what it looks like. But I appreciate the honesty and the simple explanation, the simple explaining, the follow-through, the lack of the tap dance. It's not a lot of word salad coming out of Trump's mouth. That's what it is. You're not getting the Amy Klobuchar or Kamala Harris special. You know, you're not getting that. Little credit, maybe? Little credit for that. Can't do that, right? Can't give a little credit for that. I just showed you. He's not lying. I just showed you the clip. It looked like you could see, line of sight. Because I know there are people that don't believe that because Trump said it. But they'll believe the guy who eulogized Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan and locked up more people, more Negroes, more ninjas. the lockers in your high school, and then got cute, didn't work. Point is this. Trump deserves credit for that part. I want to hear him talk more about the DEI part, because I don't get that. But the line of sight.
You could have done a million different maneuvers. For some reason, it just kept going and then made a slight turn at the very end, and by that time it was too late. They shouldn't have been at the same height, because if it was at the same height, you could have gone under it or over it, and nobody realized, or they didn't say that it's at the same height. At the same height, still wouldn't have been great, but you would have missed it by quite a bit. Could have been 1,000 feet higher. It could have been 200 feet lower, but it was exactly at the same height, and somebody should have been able to point that out. So all of this is going to be studied, but it just seems to me, from a couple of words that I like to use, the words common sense, some really bad things happened, and some things happened that shouldn't have happened. So you had a helicopter going in an identical direction. You had a helicopter that was at the exact same height as somebody going in essentially the opposite direction. You had a plane that was following a track, which is a track that every other plane followed. And I don't imagine, I know I've heard today that they might have been following the preceding plane, which was pretty close, but not that close, the preceding plane. But you wouldn't have even been able to see that because of the direction that the helicopter was coming in at. So you had a confluence of bad decisions that were made, and you have people that lost their lives, violently lost their lives. We're going to take a few questions. I'd like to ask our new Secretary of Transportation to say a few words. Sean Duffy, great gentleman, just started. It's not your fault, and I know you agree with me very strongly on intellect and even psychological well-being of the air traffic control. It's such an important position, and I think I can't emphasize stronger. I changed it when I first ran in 2016. I changed it. We had the highest standard that you could have, and then they changed it back. That was Biden, to a standard I read it to you. That was from one of your papers. One of the people in this room actually wrote that. And then I changed it back a few days ago. And unfortunately, we'll see. We don't know that necessarily it's even the controller's fault. But one thing we do know, there was a lot of vision. And
there it is. You hit it. There it is. Why is the, up to this point, I heard him mention DEI, but he has not blamed DEI. Has he? Up to this point, he hasn't blamed DEI. Up to this point, he mentioned DEI in his conversation, but he talked more about the plane of the pilot, the Black Hawk. He talked more about the line of sight. And he said right here, we don't even know if it was the FAA, the air traffic controller's fault.
One of the people in this room actually wrote that. And then I changed it back a few days ago. And unfortunately, we'll see. We don't know that necessarily it's even the controller's fault. But one thing we do know, there was a lot of vision, and people should have been able to see that, at what point do you stop? At what point do you say, wow, that plane's getting a little bit close? So this is a tragedy that should not have happened. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would just note the President's leadership has been remarkable during this crisis. We have had a whole of government response, local, state, federal. And when you see that kind of cooperation, it begins with the leadership in this body. So thank you for that, Mr. President. You make our jobs a lot easier. You made an important point that when we deal with safety, we can only accept the best and the brightest in positions of safety that impact the lives of our loved ones, our family members. And I think you make a really important point on that, Mr. President. That is the motto of your presidency, the best and the brightest, the most intelligent coming into these spaces. I want to take a moment and extend my condolences to the families of the loved ones. We commit to them that we are going to get to the bottom of this investigation, not in 3 years, not in 4 years, but as quickly as possible with the NTSB, who is here today, as well as the FAA. What happened yesterday shouldn't have happened. It should not have happened. And when Americans take off in airplanes, they should expect to land at their destination. That didn't happen yesterday. That's not acceptable. And so we will not accept excuses. We will not accept passing the buck. We are going to take responsibility at the Department of Transportation and the FAA to make sure we have the reforms that have been dictated by President Trump in place to make sure that these mistakes do not happen again. And again, I want to thank you for your leadership, Mr. President, and I appreciate the confidence you.
I don't think you can blame him. Sean Duffy's been on the job 2 days. In the worst airplane crash in the last, it says 20 years, I'd say 50 years. Totally avoidable. Non-weather related. Happens. Not his fault. That's how that should be reported. Should not be reported. Trump's blaming black people. Maybe you got any ethics at all? Any ethics at all? Even a little bit of ethics? I know you want your money from the Democratic Party. I know you need a job. I know you need some job security. I understand you want to go on shows. I understand the phone's not ringing off the hook for your CNN appearances or your MSNBC appearances. I get it. The reach ain't what it used to be. But don't you got a little bit of ethics? Don't you care at all? Just a bit? Does it bother you being such a hack?
Place to meet. Thank you.
Pete, would you like to say something?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Again, I want to echo what the Transportation Secretary said about your leadership. From the moment we found out about this, we were in contact with the White House trying to determine exactly what happened. I would echo it as well. No excuses. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We first and foremost, from the Defense Department, want to pass our condolences to the 64 souls and their families that were affected by this. Never should happen. And certainly the 3 service members, the 3 soldiers, a young captain, staff sergeant, and a CW2, Chief Warrant Officer, on a routine annual retraining of night flights on a standard corridor for a continuity of government mission. The military does dangerous things. It does routine things on the regular basis. Tragically, last night, a mistake was made. And I think the president is right. There was some sort of an elevation issue that we have immediately begun investigating at the DOD and Army level. Army CID is on the ground investigating. Top-tier aviation assets inside the DOD are investigating, sir, to get to the bottom of it so that it does not happen again, because it's absolutely unacceptable. But I want to echo what the Transportation Secretary and you, Mr. President, said, because it pertains to the DOD as well. We will have the best and brightest in every position possible. As you said in your inaugural, it is colorblind and merit-based. The best leaders possible, whether it's flying Black Hawks and flying airplanes, leading platoons, or in government. The era of DEI is gone at the Defense Department, and we need the best and brightest, whether it's in our air traffic control, or whether it's in our generals, or whether it's throughout government. So thank you for your leadership and courage on that, sir, and we'll stand by you on it. Thank you very much.
JD, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. I just want to reemphasize something the President said, and you've heard from the Secretary of Transportation and of Defense. There really was a whole of government response. We were all on the phone. We were all communicating yesterday, trying to get to the bottom of this immediately, but also try to communicate with the American people about what happened. Something the President said that I think bears reemphasizing, which is that when you don't have the best standards in who you're hiring, It means, on the one hand, you're not getting the best people in government, but on the other hand, it puts stresses on the people who are already there. And I think that is a core part of what President Trump is going to bring and has already brought to Washington, D.C. is we want to hire the best people because we want the best people at air traffic control, and we want to make sure we have enough people at air traffic control who are actually competent to do the job. If you go back to just some of the headlines over the past 10 years, you have many hundreds of people suing the government because they would like to be air traffic controllers, but they were turned away because of the color of their skin. That policy ends under Donald Trump's leadership because safety is the first priority of our aviation industry. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, on DEI and the claims that you've made, are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power, you have to go by psychological quality. And psychological quality is a very important element of it. These are various very powerful tests that we put to use, and they were terminated by Biden. And Biden went by a standard that's the exact opposite. So we don't know, but we do know that you had two planes at the same level. You had a helicopter and a plane. That shouldn't have happened. And we'll see. We're going to look into that, and we're going to see. But certainly for an air traffic controller, we want the brightest, the smartest, the sharpest. We want somebody that's psychologically superior, and that's what we're going to have. Yeah.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Mr. President, you mentioned at the top of the briefing that there were several Russian nationals on the flight.
Yes.
Will the U.S. government be willing to facilitate the transfer of their remains, considering
Yes, we
the
will.
fact there is no direct air travel between the two countries?
We've already been in contact with Russia, and the answer is yes, we will facilitate. Yes. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. The situation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is getting worse, even though President John Lorenzo has been mediating the conflict between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo because he wants to bring peace and stability. The situation is really bad right now. I want to hear from Mr. President if you have any plan in the future to bring peace in the
Well,
Democratic
you're asking me a
Republic
question
of the
about
Congo.
Rwanda, and it is a very serious problem. I agree, but I don't think it's appropriate right now to talk about it. But it is a very serious problem.
Mr. President, we don't even yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed, and you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people. You mean the names of the people that are on the plane? You think that's going to make a difference? They are a group of people that have lost their lives. If you want a list of the names, we can give you that. We'll be giving that very soon. We're in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. But I think that's not a very smart question. I'm surprised coming from you. Please.
Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for being here. Based on your analysis so far, do you have a sense of who was at fault, if it was the plane, the helicopter, air traffic control, and can you assure people that it is safe to fly in and out of D.C.?
Well, I've given you the analysis, and the analysis was based on vision. You had a lot of people that saw what was happening. You had some people that knew what was happening. There was some warnings, but the warnings were given very, very late. You know, those warnings were given very late. It was almost as they were given a few seconds later, there was the crash. It should have been brought up earlier. But the people in the helicopter should have seen where they were going. I can't imagine people with 20/20 vision not seeing, you know, what's happening up there. Again, they shouldn't have been at the same height. You're going in reverse directions or sideway directions. Obviously, you want to be at different heights. I see it all the time when I'm flying. You have planes going in the opposite. They're always lower. We're higher. So if somehow there's a screw up, there's not going to be a tragedy. It'll be close, but you know, there's never going to be a tragedy if you're at a different elevation. For whatever reason, they were at the same elevation. And also, from the American Airlines standard, he's along the track that every plane is along. You say, what was a helicopter doing in that track? It's very sad. but visually, somebody should have been able to see and taken that helicopter out of play, and they should have been at a different height.
Thank you, sir. You mentioned the Russians that were on board that plane. What other nationalities were on board that passenger?
There were a couple of others. We're going to be in.
I don't want to miss anything. I haven't watched the entire clip, so if I stop it, I don't want to miss anything. Like I don't want to cut you out of the conversation. I want us to be able to watch this together. But I gotta say, folks, I don't understand why the DEI stuff's being brought up if it's not just for political points. Because I don't see it as a DEI issue. But I do want to say I do find it problematic when you got documentation saying you want people with mental problems. That don't make sense. I never heard of anybody putting out an ordinance, I don't know, a memo, hey, bring us people that have mental incapacities. I don't understand why is that there? Why does he have that document? Is that document authentic? Is that a real document? Is that something that Buttigieg, that's how he was running? He was allowing that to be the process. So that's kooky. Now, are the people that were working at the FAA, are the aviators, air traffic controllers, are they diminished mentally? Is that the issue? Is that a true thing? Like, it won't take long to figure that out. Is that who was on deck that night? So we can get down. We don't have to operate hypothetically. Like, Donald Trump is the president of the United States. They got a lot of money. They got a lot of people. They got a lot of resources. We got all the resources in the world, basically. So we don't need to operate hypothetically and make blanket statements. Now, we can find out the problem. We can find out what was the test scores of the pilots? What were the training of the pilots? What were the activity? What was going on? Anything in the psychological profile of that, including the servicemen and women, the servicemen. So we're not gonna have to sit back and make hypothesize. We don't have to sit back and hypothesize about what took place. We'll be able to find out exactly what took place and what we're operating with. But I gotta say, I'm not seeing a DEI connection here.
Announcing it in about an hour. We have some very specific information. We're calling the countries. We've spoken to most of them, but there were some other countries represented.
Mr. President, have you spoken to President Putin?
I have not, no.
Mr. President, on your executive order,
not about this.
On your executive order, you've already issued an executive order you say will restore aviation safety.
Right.
This crash happened after that. Was the executive order successful, and what more needs to change to keep people safe?
Well, we issued it 3 days ago, and we're in the process of making those changes. This is something that should have been done a long time ago. Actually, my original order should have never been changed, and I think maybe you wouldn't have had this.
What the fuck? So Trump put out 3 days ago, they put out an order to increase the requirements in order to be an aviator. 3 days later, we have a horrific crash. I see why people would have theories. I see why people's minds are thinking, why they're putting 2 and 2 together. I mean, 3 days later, that you increase the proficiency level requirement. And 3 days later, you got a catastrophic crash that was totally avoidable. So people making they're reporting as if there's a bunch of nuts on the internet making up stuff. I don't know, man, if that's nuts. I don't know if that's nuts. Some people don't believe in coincidences. Things just happening. Some people think things happen for a reason.
Problem. Maybe. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thank you. We see like everyday life that very often those diversity hires cause sometimes issues, as you just mentioned. So what plan do you have? Are we going to see some fire? Are you going to fire some of those diversity hires in the federal government? What plan do you have?
I would say the answer is yes. If we find that people aren't mentally competent. You see the language. The language is put out by them. And if you see that, I'm not going to bore you by reading it again, but these are not people that should be doing this particular job. They'd be very good for certain jobs, but not people that should be doing this particular job.
President, you have today blamed the diversity elements, but then told us that you weren't sure that the controllers made any mistake. You then said perhaps the helicopter pilots were the ones who made the mistake.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this. This is a major chess game at the highest level. When you have 60 planes coming in during a short period of time, and they're all coming in different directions, and you're dealing with very high-level computer work and very complex computers. And one of the other things I will tell you is that the systems that were built, I was going to rebuild the entire system, and then we had an election that didn't turn out the way it should have. But they didn't build the systems properly. They spent a lot of money renovating a system, spending much more money than they would have spent if they bought a new system for air traffic controllers, meaning the computerized systems. There are certain companies that do a very good job. They didn't use those companies. They used companies that should not have been doing it. No, I think it's very important to understand that for some jobs, and not only this, but air traffic controllers, they have to be at the highest level of genius. Okay.
I want to ask you about the ice skaters in a moment because the U.S. ice skating community was affected. But first, if I can, the cited FAA text that you read is real. But the implication that this policy is new or that it stems from efforts that began under President Biden or the Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is demonstrably false. It's been on the FAA's website.
Who said that, you?
No, it's on the website, the FAA's website. It was there in 2013. It was there for the
Take
entirety.
a look. What I read.
It was there for the entirety of your administration,
Nice and easy.
too. So my question is, why didn't you change the policy during your first administration?
I did change it. I changed the Obama policy, and we had a very good policy. And then Biden came in, and he changed it. And then when I came in 3 days ago, I signed a new order bringing it to the highest level of intelligence. Okay.
It was on the website.
Please.
Respectfully, it was on the website.
Quiet.
Thank you, Welcome back to the. I'm sorry. You mentioned that a vision was probably the problem that was at issue in this crash. There's been some reports that one of the pilots in a helicopter may have been using night vision equipment. Was there any?
I heard that. We don't know. We're going to know that pretty soon. It may change your viewplane if you do have the night vision. So it's very possible that could have happened. That would be maybe a reason why you wouldn't actually see as well as on a clear night. You can see sometimes better without it. Have a couple of more.
Mr. President, is it helpful to have your Secretary of Transportation confirmed, and does this intensify your interest in getting other nominees confirmed quickly?
Go to what?
Is it helpful to have your Secretary of Transportation confirmed, and does this intensify your interest in getting other nominees confirmed quickly as well?
Well, sure. We want fast confirmations, and the Democrats, as you know, are doing everything they can to delay them. They've taken too long. We're struggling to get very good people that everybody knows are going to be confirmed, but we're struggling to get them out faster. We want them out faster. It's a good question, actually. We've been pushing Sean. Everyone knows Sean for a long time. He got many, many Democrat votes, but they want to take as long as they can. They ask questions like some of the questions that Peter would ask that were totally irrelevant and not very good questions, but they want to just keep it going. They want to keep it going as long as possible. I was very honored, actually, that you got so many Democrat votes. That was really good. That was really good.
When I applied to meet with the families, and second question, is it your impression that military training was done during that time?
The what?
The training that the helicopter was involved in. Is it anything you can tell us about?
You don't know. These are the things that will come up with the investigation. You don't know, but the helicopter obviously was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and a tragedy occurred. Please.
Question about
No, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You've been critical of the current regulations, and you've called for big reforms at FAA. I'm curious, sir.
Well, I made the reforms, actually.
What is your message?
3 days ago, I made the
Yes,
reforms.
sir. What is your message then to the American public in the weeks and months ahead? Should they feel hesitant to fly? And if you could clarify perhaps something that the Defense Secretary said when he said that this helicopter went on a continuity of government mission?
I don't know what that refers to, but they were practicing. They do that. They call it practicing, and they were, and that's something that should be done. It's only continuity in the sense that we want to have very good people, and that has to be in continuity, and that's what they refer to. But it was basically practice, and it was a practice that worked out very, very badly. Okay.
On his question, the first question, should people be hesitant to fly right now?
No, not at all. I do not hesitate to fly. This is something that it's been many years that something like this has happened, and the collision is just something that we don't expect ever to happen again. We are going to have the highest level people. We've already hired some of the people that you've already hired for that position long before we knew about this. I mean, long before. From the time I came in, we started going out and getting the best people because I said it's not appropriate what they're doing. I think it's a tremendous mistake. You know, they like to do things and they like to take them too far, and this is sometimes what ends up happening. Now, with that, I'm not blaming the controller. I'm saying there are things that you could question, like the height of the helicopter, the height of the plane being at the same level and going in opposite directions. It's not a positive. But no, we're already hiring people. No, flying is very safe. We have the safest flying anywhere in the world, and we'll keep it that way. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much, everybody.
How y'all feeling? What do you think? What do you think, guys? Give me a like on this if you're watching this and you feel like this is a good show, a good topic, if I'm doing a decent job presenting it, or a good job, or a genius level job. Donald Trump, mixed score on this one, right? Mixed score. I got to give him an A on transparency. I was able to go find the exact clip and see exactly what he saw, which was that the Black Hawk helicopter went directly into the line of where the airliner was. He didn't BS. Said it looks crazy that happened. You can't see the airliner. So I got to give Trump high credit for calling that exactly what he saw. Now, for the DEI portion of it, I fail to see a connection. If you're going to say, hey, I don't really have a reason, or I don't have a reason really to point towards my aviation staff, my air traffic control staff. I have a reason to look at my air traffic controllers, people on the ground calling in the landing, as being at fault. Other than he did point to one part where he said no one contacted the helicopter or the airliner until it was too late, really, and say, you see the plane. It was not a hit of, maybe it seems so obvious, maybe they didn't think they need to call. Maybe it's like this helicopter has to see this big ass airliner. I don't know. So I really don't understand. I don't really get the DEI portion of it. I understand the knee-jerk reaction to blame Trump for the DEI comments. I see a couple things in it. I see a political move where this is the policy he wants to implement, getting rid of DEI. He's already taken moves to that. He's already signed executive orders getting rid of the practice. So he's trying to reiterate and want to prove himself right in that regard, even though there's no evidence that this particular crash at this point was caused by that. But you can't say, based on the information that he has, that it definitely positively was not a part of it. Can't say it was no factor, that it's, that they have these type of directives that you want to go get people who have mental disabilities. And he was it seemed like he was trying to be somewhat understanding and watch his words. He said, hey, I'm not saying they don't, there aren't jobs for them. But the air traffic control job, not the job for somebody with a capacitated mental state. I get that. Maybe people don't want you to say it, but maybe you got to say it because some people are loopy and they don't understand and they don't live in the real world, and maybe they don't have kids, and maybe they think they have 9 lives. Maybe they think the people on that plane have multiple lives. They get to come back again tomorrow if a mistake is made. Maybe that's the way they operate. But those of us that realize, based on all our information, based on what we know, we get one shot. Never met anybody that lived twice. So maybe it'd be a good idea if the people that are supposed to make sure planes land, are clear. I really don't have a problem with that. In fact, I don't have a problem with that, the idea that you want the best people. But I do have a problem with not articulating what best and brightest means. What's that even mean? On tests, there's only certain numbers you can get on the test. Say everybody gets an A. Now what? Now what does it become? Everybody gets an A. I think some people wrap around, I think some of us put in our heads this idea that there are people that have A's who get overlooked for people with D's. And I don't think that's the case. I think everybody's got an A. Everybody got an A. And now you get to choose from the A's. And when there are no A's, you look at who's got B's. I don't think they go, oh, let's not get the people with the A's because they're white. I don't think that's what happens. I think they say, hey, we got enough A's that are white. We got the A's that are something else. You might call that discrimination, and we can have that argument. But does that mean you didn't get the best and brightest? Because you didn't get the white brightest? You got the Latino brightest or the black brightest or the LGBTQ brightest that are part of the bright? See, everybody should be a part of the bright. Everyone's part of the bright. So part of the problem is when you put out content that says, we want these type of bright people, that gives people the impression you don't want the other type of bright people. And it also gives people the impression that when things come to shove, you'll take less bright people as long as they fit this criteria, because you made that criteria the priority. Now, some people are going to act like they don't know what that means. That what I'm saying is speaking alien. But I'm not speaking the alien language. I'm speaking English. What I'm saying is when you put it out there that your priority is not the best or the brightest, but your priority, first and foremost, is diversity, yeah. That leaves people to question the quality. Because you didn't say quality was the criteria. Even if it was. Just putting out the content. So the same thing happened with Los Angeles County Fire Department. We want diverse. They basically said we want gay women. We got too many guys. It's only 5% gay women, so let's get some more gay women. Then it's a horrific fire, and people said, see, you got all those gay women. Now, they only got 5% gay women. 5. 95% are men. And 90% are white men. And they're blaming the fire, or part of the blame for the fires lasting as long as they did is because of the 5%. Because obviously, unless it's 99.9% white guys, there'll always be a white guy going, see, you should have had more white guys. Because they're a white guy and they want a job. I blame the Democrats. I didn't say Tim Black, you always been the Democrats, but listen here. Part of the fight that I'm on is trying to get people to understand DEI means diversity. It means all these people. Doesn't mean black. And when you thought Trump was talking about DEI, if you thought he meant black people, recognize the language that he was reading on that paper was about people with mental disabilities. Anybody can have a mental disability. The Democrats have been trading in this, where they make black people the currency. We're the pawns. Black people are pawns to the Democratic Party. You're a means to an end. They use us. They use black people to do all these programs. They use these programs to put money in their pockets. $181 million for DEI training. I want to know who was doing the trainings. I already know that only 3% of the trainers are black. 3. So the ones getting the jobs that oversee the trainings are white women. 3% of them are black. I don't know the numbers on the Asians or the Latinos. Then when we start talking about the programs, I told you 1.3% of the government federal programs or contract awards, only 1.3% went to black businesses. So the DEI is not black. If DEI was black, wouldn't we be getting like 90% of the businesses? Because it's a DEI program over the Office of Personnel Management or over the award system in the federal government, because DEI was under Biden, and I'm talking about fiscal year 2023. So under Biden's DEI programs, only 1.3% of federal jobs, federal job contracts went to black businesses. 1.3. If DEI meant black, wouldn't that number be at least 90? Why is the number 1? So what I'm saying is, we got people running around saying DEI means black. I don't think Trump thinks DEI means black. I think Trump thinks DEI means black, Latino, Asian, Muslim, Jewish, gay, disabled, able-bodied, differently abled, veteran, mental disability, little person, everything except everything that could happen in any combination thereof except white straight. That's what diversity means. And no matter how many times you get a viral video or a viral tweet or a viral Facebook post or a viral TikTok post, it's not going to change the facts that diversity does not mean black. Do we have a few shut-in morons that think diversity means black? Yeah, because they don't know what the word diversity means. They only see life through their own lens. They're white, so they think diverse is anything that's not them. They forget there's more diversity in the country. There's more not thems than just black people. It's everybody else. And when they say them, they mean white them and they mean white men. Diverse can mean white women. So back to my point. The Democrats use black people in order to start these programs that they make a lot of money off of. And their businesses get hired with these government contracts. When Trump cuts off the faucet, he's cutting into white people money. 98.7% of it was white people money, or at least not black people money, okay? So to say it's DEI is black is a slap in the face like 3 times, because 1, we don't get the jobs. 2, we don't get the businesses, so we don't get the money. We don't get the jobs, so we don't get the money. And 3, we get the blame. We get the backhanded comments. We get the goofies making the stupid-ass posts. We get the fools making the dumb statements. We get to sit back and listen to people like Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro and Tim Pool and other morons in the conservative media, and also some black people that want to dance with buttermilk biscuits, make these dumb claims, stupid shit, when the numbers don't point to black people. So at the end of the day, Trump's playing politics, but he's also playing it straight. He's doing a lot of things at one time. I wish he'd leave the playing the politics part out of it. I don't even know what J.D. Vance was talking about. Talking about the FAA being sued for lack of black air traffic controllers. Well, all I want to know, J.D. Vance, Sean Duffy, the new transportation secretary. All I want to know is who was working that night. Who was working when the planes crashed? Let's stop talking hypothetically. Let's stop guessing. We don't have to guess. We don't have to make blanket statements. We don't have to stereotype. You don't have to assume shit. You are the government. You run the show. Bring me the people responsible. I still don't know what caused the shipwreck. It's like things happen and it's a bunch of noise, and then the noise goes away, and we wait for the next catastrophe. Who caused the shipwreck that took all those people's lives? Not that a bunch of Hispanics that were working on the bridge. I thought they'd be somewhere picking tomatoes. Isn't that all they do? Oh, they also work road crews. They also build bridges, don't they? Ooh, weird. I didn't know that was even possible. Because everybody's telling me that all the Latino immigrants do is farm work. Weird, huh? But anyway, the point is, we still don't know what caused that. So now this is going to go into the deep, dark hole of us not understanding or really knowing any official word about what happened here. And that will be intentional because they're going to find out what happened here. They should find out what happened here. Trump making this about Joe Biden? Okay, I get it. It's still politics? Okay, fine. Black people, when you hear the word DEI, stop thinking they're talking about you. If DEI was supposed to work for us, if DEI meant us, there would be no racial wealth gap because that would be closed because DEI been in effect since Obama. There are 45 million, there are 40 million black people. 45 million black people in America. Having a DEI program in Walmart didn't fix our lives. I know people want to act like it did. It didn't. The racial wealth gap is still wide. People are still unemployed. 40% of black children still go hungry or still live under the poverty line, That didn't change because Walmart hired Gene, black guy Gene from Idaho or Indiana, to be a second shift manager instead of Susie Q with the blonde hair. Like, that didn't change the racial wealth gap. That didn't end black poverty. Okay? So, like, I know people want to make it a big deal. That's not enough. It's not enough. Last thing I guess I'll say on this. Find out what the cause was. Get down to the bottom of it. At the end of the day, people lost their lives. Human beings with families and people that loved them. Not coming home. Never coming back. And that should be the above the fold. That should be the masthead of this conversation. Instead, it's about who's getting blamed. And that's the wrong tack to take. I believe it's the wrong tack to take. 2025 just started, and we're being just as petty in 2025 as we were in 2024. The election's over. Walk it off, Democrats. You lost. I know it's early, but it's never too early to be a grown-up. Get to the bottom of this. We don't have time to point fingers. Black America you black, not diverse. One thing about it is we ain't diverse, we black. No matter what them people say. Yeah, they didn't have a sign when they say no Negroes allowed, no ninjas on the door there. They didn't mean diverse, they meant you. They meant us, they meant black. It was one thing. So let's not play into their hands. I know it's beneficial to some people. Some of you benefit from this nonsense. No. That's all I got, man. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Once again, Trump, mixed reviews, but I'm glad he was straightforward and real. And he did not say, DEI did this. Because that's what people are reporting. I never heard him say DEI did this. He brought up many issues, but never once did he actually say DEI caused it. He didn't say that. In my opinion, based on that press conference, seemed like more to blame, but he was really focusing on the line of sight issue and why and remember, this is big because we're talking about the military. And Trump's a military president, right? Trump's a military president. So it's kind of big for him to be like, hey, this serviceman who was flying that plane, why couldn't he see anything? I know he'll get no credit for that. I get that. I understand. We live in America, and the corporate media is owned by the left, the corporate media is owned by the left-leaning or fake left or the middle centrist kind of to the right. Fuck it, the Democrats. I get it. But Trump's a military guy and felt a whole lot like maybe he's kind of putting this in the lap of the military because they flew the thing that crashed into the other thing. Okay, so that's what I got out of it. Of course, it appears from what I saw, most articles were saying Trump was blaming the blacks. Bullshit. All right, guys, let's go to comments if anybody's still there. Elizabeth Looney became a YouTube member. Thank you, Elizabeth. DEI's not black. They just put it on us because they want us. They're fighting for these other people. I agree. Super Sicker, thank you, Elizabeth. Revelator says, I don't know how that Black Hawk pilot couldn't see that plane. I just don't. Black Mamba's in the house. Thank you, Black Mamba. Megs giving out another membership. Thank you, Megs. Poponeye Shelley. Pichelle. One membership to a lucky person. Thanks, Pichelle. Great job as always, Tim. Genius. That's what it's going to take, genius. Okay, guys. Hit the like button on your way out, guys. I appreciate you. Let the algorithm know that this was a pretty good show. Our condolences to the family and friends and loved ones who lost someone in that tragic, tragic event. It was avoidable. That's the worst part about it. Worst part about it. All right, guys, that's all I got. I got nothing but love for you. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow. Be here, guys. Tim Black Show, right here. Holding it down. Remember, the Tim Black Show is where black people, we give black people the truth, the raw truth they deserve. As our mission, get black people out of that burning house called the Democratic Party. Let's go. Wolfpack, like I always say, don't let anybody take your cornbread. Don't do it. Keep your cornbread. I'll see y'all on the next one. I'm tired. Where's my ladies at? Oh, here they go.